Selections from the complete works of Swami Vivekananda. The Secrets of Work, Section 2. The whole gist of this teaching is that you should work like a master and not as a slave. Work incessantly, but do not do slave's work. Do you not see how everybody works? Nobody can be altogether at rest. 99% of mankind work like slaves, and the result is misery. It is all selfish work. Work through freedom, work through love. The word love is very difficult to understand. Love never comes until there is freedom. There is no true love possible in the slave. If you buy a slave and tie him down in chains and make him work for you, he will work like a drudge, but there will be no love in him. So, when we ourselves work for the things of the world as slaves, there can be no love in us, and our work is not true work. This is true of work done for relatives and friends, and is true for work done for ourselves. Selfish work is slave's work, and here is a test. Every act of love brings happiness. There is no act of love which does not bring peace and blessedness as its reaction. Real existence, real knowledge, and real love are eternally connected with one another, the three in one. Where one of them is, the others also must be. They are the three aspects of the one without a second: the existence, knowledge, bliss. When that existence becomes relative, we see it as the world. That knowledge becomes in its turn modified into the knowledge of the things. And that bliss forms the foundation of all true love known to the heart of a man. Therefore, true love can never react so as to cause pain either to the lover or to the beloved. Suppose a man loves a woman, he wishes to have her all to himself and feels extremely jealous about her every movement. He wants her to sit near him, to stand near him, and to eat and move at his bidding. He is a slave to her and wishes to have her as his slave. That is not love. It is a kind of morbid affection of the slave, insinuating itself as love. It cannot be love because it is painful. If she does not do what he wants, it brings him pain. With love, there is no painful reaction. Love brings only a reaction of bliss. If it does not, it is not love. It is mistaking something else for love. When you have succeeded in loving your husband, your wife, your children, the whole world, the universe, in such a manner that there is no reaction of pain or jealousy, no selfish feeling, then you are in a fit state to be unattached. Krishna says, "Look at me, Arjuna. If I stop from work for one moment, the whole universe will die. I have nothing to gain from work. I am the one Lord, but why do I work? Because I love the world." God is unattached because He loves. That real love makes us unattached. Wherever there is attachment, the clinging to the things of the world, you must know that it is all physical. Attraction between sets of particles of matter. Something that attracts two bodies nearer and nearer all the time, and if they cannot get near enough, produces pain. But where there is real love, it does not rest on physical attachment at all. Such lovers may be 1,000 miles away from one another, but their love will be all the same. It does not die and will never produce any painful reaction. To attain this unattachment is almost a life work. But as soon as we have reached this point, we have attained the goal of love and become free. The bondage of nature falls from us, and we see nature as she is. She forges no more chains for us. We stand entirely free and take not the results of work into consideration. Who then cares for what the results may be? Do you ask anything from your children in return for what you have given them? It is your duty to work for them, and there the matter ends. In whatever you do for a particular person, a city, or a state, assume the same attitude towards it as you have towards your children. Expect nothing in return. If you can invariably take the position of a giver, in which everything given by you is a free offering to the world without any thought of return, then will your work bring you no attachment. Attachment comes only where we expect a return. If working like slaves result in selfishness and attachment, working as masters of our own mind gives rise to the bliss of non attachment. We often talk of right and justice, but we find that in the world, right and justice are mere baby's talk. There are two things which guide the conduct of men: might and mercy. The exercise of might is invariably the exercise of selfishness. All men and women try to make the most of whatever power or advantage they have. Mercy is heaven itself. To be good, we have all to be merciful. Even justice and right should stand on mercy. All thought of obtaining return for the work we do hinders our spiritual progress. Nay, in the end, it brings misery. There is another way in which this idea of mercy and selfless charity can be put into practice. That is, by looking upon work as worship in case we believe in a personal God. Here we give up all the fruits of our work unto the Lord, and worshipping Him thus, we have no right to expect anything from mankind for the work we do. The Lord Himself works incessantly and is ever without attachment. Just as water cannot wet the lotus leaf, so work cannot bind the unselfish man by giving rise to attachment to results. The selfless and unattached man may live in the very heart of a crowded and sinful city. He will not be touched by sin. This idea of complete self sacrifice is illustrated in the following story. After the battle of Kurukshetra, the five Pandava brothers performed a great sacrifice and made very large gifts to the poor. All people expressed amazement at the greatness and richness of the sacrifice and said that such a sacrifice the world had never seen before. But after the ceremony, there came a little mongoose, half of whose body was golden and the other half brown, and he began to roll on the floor of the sacrificial hall. He said to those around, "You are all liars. This is no sacrifice." "What?" they exclaimed. "You say this is no sacrifice? Do you not know how money and jewels were poured out to the poor and everyone became rich and happy? This was the most wonderful sacrifice any man ever performed." But the mongoose said, "There was once a little village, and in that dwelt a poor Brahmin with his wife, his son, and his son's wife. They were very poor and lived on small gifts made to them for preaching and teaching. There came in that land a 3 years' famine, and the poor Brahmins suffered more than ever. At last, when the family had starved for days, the father brought home one morning a little barley flour which he had been fortunate enough to obtain, and he divided it into 4 parts, one for each member of the family. They prepared it for their meal, and just as they were about to eat, there was a knock on the door. The father opened it, and there stood a guest. Now, in India, a guest is a sacred person. He is as God for the time being and must be treated as such. So the poor Brahmin said, "Come in, sir, you are welcome." He set before the guest his own portion of the food, which the guest quickly ate and said, "Oh, sir, you have killed me. I have been starving for 10 days, and this little bit has but increased my hunger." Then the wife said to her husband, "Give him my share." But the husband said, "Not so." The wife, however, insisted, saying, "Here is a poor man, and it is our duty as householders to see that he is fed, and it is my duty as a wife to give him my portion, seeing that you have no more to offer him." Then she gave her share to the guest, which he ate, and said he was still burning with hunger. So the son said, "Take my portion also. It is a duty of a son to help his father to fulfill his obligations." The guest ate that, but remained still unsatisfied. So the son's wife gave him her portion also. That was sufficient, and the guest departed, blessing them. That night, those four people died of starvation. A few granules of that flour had fallen on the floor, and when I rolled my body on them, half of it became golden, as you see. Since then, I have been traveling all over the world, hoping to find another sacrifice like that, but nowhere have I found one. Nowhere else has the other half of my body been turned into gold. That is why I say this is no sacrifice. This idea of charity is going out of India. Great men are becoming fewer and fewer. When I was first learning English, I read an English story book in which there was a story about a dutiful boy who had gone out to work and had given some of his money to his old mother, and this was praised in 3 or 4 pages. What was that? No Hindu boy can ever understand the moral of that story. Now I understand it when I hear the Western idea, every man for himself. And some men take everything for themselves, and fathers and mothers and wives and children go to the wall. That should never and nowhere be the idea of the householder. Now you see what karma yoga means, even at the point of death, to help anyone without asking questions. Be cheated millions of times and never ask a question, and never think of what you are doing. Never want of your gifts to the poor or expect their gratitude, but rather be grateful to them for giving you the occasion of practicing charity to them. Thus, it is plain that to be an ideal householder is a much more difficult task than to be an ideal sannyasin. The true life of work is indeed as hard as, if not harder than, the equally true life of renunciation.